Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Surviving UX podcast. I am Meg Kramer, and my co-host is Jessamine Edwards. And I guess, no matter where you are in North America, we are experiencing these long summer days. Jessamine, what is the worst thing about long summer days?
Pulling down the blackout shades at like 8:45 p.m. trying to convince my kids it's time for bed.
Uh-huh,
And
yeah.
myself. Yeah, it's hard to get kids down during the summer. Nobody wants to go to sleep, including myself, actually. What about you?
I used to love summer and the long summer days, and then I now feel like they have a lot of pressure in them to like do more stuff, get more stuff done. Oh, the light's still out. You can fit this in. You can
Oh
do
my
this.
God, that is so
Oh,
true. That is so true. Because yesterday we went for a walk and then I was like, my kid's crying. I guess it's time to put them to bed, but I'm like, it's still light out. Should I keep
mhm.
walking? And I was like, no, stop walking and get this kid into bed. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
too much.
I've
Well,
decided we all need houses on the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere so we can keep our days equal, or I guess we all need to live at the equator.
all right. Well, guys, today we have an awesome guest. I'm super excited to welcome her to the pod. Our guest is a senior UX strategist at Amazon Web Services, aka AWS. She's also worked as a UX designer at Best Buy, Filter, and Monsoon. She lives on a floating home a la Sleepless in Seattle, surrounded by celebrities. She has a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Virginia Tech,
Ooh.
where she also spent time as a photographer for the school newspaper and a DJ at the radio station. Please welcome to the podcast, Courtney Campbell.
Hi, Courtney.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello. Thanks for
Courtney.
having me.
Welcome.
Yay, we're so happy to have you. Courtney, how is your summer going? Are the days too long?
Never. Oh my gosh, we're soaking it up. I think we had solstice last week, and being in Seattle, we don't miss a beat. We enjoy it while it's here.
That's
Right, because
cool.
your winters have such short days, so maybe that memory helps you enjoy the long summer days a little bit more.
Oh yeah, we don't take them for granted at all, and we also try not to get sad when we know the days are already getting shorter. So
Oh, that's so funny. I actually do feel like people in the Northwest like are very, very appreciative of the sun, where I think people in the South are more like cursing it most of the time. I mean, because leading up to this, like people, it's very, very kosher for everyone to bitch and moan about the arrival of summer and how they're dreading it because we're just
not
gonna
here.
roast. No, not at
But we
all.
don't have humidity, we don't have mosquitoes. We got to deal with some fires. That's the scariest part. But other than that,
Yeah, that
we got to
is scary.
recharge up.
As you say that, I'm literally scratching a mosquito bite right now.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, Courtney, I honestly, I didn't realize that you were from Virginia like I am, and you've chosen to live on the West Coast. Like, what is up? Why did you abandon us here on the East Coast and become a West Coaster?
And I'm never coming back. I'm sorry.
As I scratch my
I
mosquito bite, why would you
exact
leave?
humidity, humidity, trees. I don't know. I moved west with my husband in 2007, and I just pretty much fell in love with it. We kind of went sight unseen to Portland
Oh, wow.
um, after graduating and from Virginia Tech with an electrical engineering degree. I was in the era where it was kind of post 9/11 stuff. And so my choices for electrical engineering in Virginia were going to be Department of Defense related, and I wasn't really
Okay.
interested in that. So
Yeah.
coming West Coast and kind of got into software culture, which I didn't think I was going to land in, because
Mm-hmm.
I actually switched to electrical engineering from computer engineering, to kind of get out of computer engineering.
Mm.
Um, but I liked the West Coast software situation a lot better, and
Yeah.
it's where I discovered UX, and the clouds parted for me, and I had a place in this world. And I really the community in Portland for learning UX was awesome because I don't have a traditional design education. um, but
Yeah,
you
I
know,
was surprised to see that you had an engineering degree. That was news to me, and I'm very curious about this. I mean, because you went to school before the big, STEM movement and STEM for girls and stuff like that, right? So you came in, you made those choices to pursue that type of, degree on your own, I guess, I'm assuming. So what led you there?
well, my mom. So
Really?
yeah, I think my mom had she grew up and she got a degree in art and
Mm-hmm.
then got her MBA.
Okay.
And when I went to school, I remember going to camp and coming back from summer camp and to a stack of textbooks freshman year of high school. And she said, "You're going to be a programmer because I wish I was an engineer." So there was
Oh,
definitely a
Really?
push in that direction. And then in college, I switched to electrical, honestly, because there were more women and I liked the culture a lot better.
wow. That's so
Oh,
And
telling.
wow.
yeah, and what's wild is my technical background has served me really well at Amazon, because we're dealing in a technical environment. And I think of design, I think the thing that bridges the gap for me is logic. Like I really feel like we
Mm.
deal in logic, and I think for me UX is all about logic. Like you're making a
Mm-hmm.
case, you're understanding a system. Um, and what's wild is I can count at least, I think it would take me more than one hand to count the number of women designers at AWS who have electrical engineering degrees. So I've
Yeah.
found my tribe.
Wow. That is cool. That is very cool. So, Courtney, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, that I was so interested to talk to you, is because your career has really evolved and you have stepped into a strategist role. And that is uncommon. Honestly, you just don't see that on many people's job titles. I'm so curious about this. I want to know why, how, when, like what brought you to moving away from a design role to a strategist role? What has changed for you?
Yeah, I mean, so to be completely honest, I'm still trying to figure that out. So I work on, and actually I'm kind of hot off the heels of an offsite, a 2-day offsite,
Oh, wow.
where me, another strategist, and a principal strategist, and a couple other leaders kind of came together and really have been trying to figure this out for us.
Mm-hmm.
So to be honest, I think a lot of the job title is about getting your stakeholders to recognize the full value that you can bring as a UX practitioner. And a lot of what we were talking about is like, it's not necessarily someone's job to do this.
Mm,
For us, it's a little bit of a muscle to explain the way that we want to engage. Um, but that doesn't mean that designers aren't doing UX strategy. Like we've all been doing
Mhm.
strategy our whole career when we think about product strategy, about when we're going to do research, about what we should spend design exploration on versus things that we can lean on a design system, for example. What questions don't we know, and how do we get that human component at the table? So a lot of it, to be frank, it wasn't my decision. And I've
really?
No, it wasn't my decision, but it kind of made sense for the work I was doing. So
Okay.
I've enjoyed it, and it's actually kind of helped me reframe the way I think. Like at first, I was just like, I'm kind of in over my head here. And then I
Mm-hmm.
was like, you know what? I've done this before. I've switched careers before. Let me think about this as a career switch. And if I was applying for this job, like, what would I need to show that, I'm a strategist?
Wow.
So I've been kind of going back to all the thought leaders, listening to a lot of
Mm.
Nielsen Norman, and just kind of thoughts about where UX is heading, and in this climate that we're in. Um, and honestly, kind of where I've landed is it's really, and we've done this in the past, right? Like UX designer, a lot of people like to be called product designers, and that's another one that's kind of signaling to your stakeholders how you want to be engaged. Like I'm not here
Mm.
for screens, I'm here for the end-to-end thinking of how the entire experience happens for the people who are using it, for the people who are buying it,
Mm-hmm.
for the people who are setting it up, because we're at AWS, so there's a lot of heavy lifting to onboard things.
Mhm.
So we think a lot about that. Um, yeah.
Wow.
Do you think that the move to having the need for UX strategists might be related. And I just realized as I'm talking, this is a very leading question. But as you were talking, it made me think that need to have a UX strategist come in on a project and provide guidance or support for that team and that project. Is that perhaps due to the fact that a lot of our design problems might be solved in the last couple of years? Like we have patterns, we have design systems, and there's less thinking about the minutia of buttons and colors and pixels and more the kind of holistic positioning of projects. I guess that's kind of what I was thinking of as you were explaining your role and your job and kind of how you had no or not no choice, but how you were kind of led to this new role for you.
Yeah, I think that certainly feeds into it. That's a part of it. I think the other piece that happens for us, and I'll talk about AWS a little specifically because, as cloud services, we have at the end of the day, our products kind of boil down to being APIs that are used
Mhm.
by engineers. And so our
Mhm.
users are kind of they're technical, our engineering teams. Like I think when I explain AWS to people, I'm like, it's by engineers for engineers. And
Mhm.
design's kind of figuring out how to make those engineers, make these tools more useful and less of just like a hard chore. Um, and so I think the strategist role kind of comes in. Certainly, there's like, at its worst, design at Amazon or AWS specifically turns into like, we're just skinning those APIs with a design system. And we
Mhm.
have those tools in our pockets, and Figma makes that super easy to do now. And, I'm the one screaming, like, get out of Figma, get out of the design system when you're in exploration. That's great for when you're ready
Mhm.
to harden your designs and deliver some finals. But like,
Mhm.
when you're spending all your time kind of figuring out how to get a component to work right, you're not spending your time thinking about what's right for the customer and for your user. And I think the thing that my organization is trying to do by having some of us with the title strategist is say, hey, like, yes, we have features coming in. We have wonderful PMs who are in constant contact with our customers. But the human piece gets missed, the piece where it's like, okay, how are they actually going to do this? And we have the benefit of we can have, professional services step in, and our customers are big enough to be able to like kind of fund these sorts of roles. But we're losing sight of just the ease of use. So we're kind of like the strategists are kind
Mhm.
of there to help say, we need to be in the room before it's on the roadmap to help figure
Mhm.
out what these experiences are end to end, what the humans are actually doing.
Mm,
Because what happens without that is we end up with a list of feature requests, which is great. And designers will pick those feature requests up and figure it out, when it's on the roadmap and like tasks get assigned. But we need someone like it's really, we all know as designers we need to be in the room before that, and this is kind of a mechanism for forcing that and trying to advocate for that a little bit more. And I think at my best, like, that is kind of pitching stuff up for designers to kind of to get to take things all the way through. And certain
mm,
designers do this already and have, depending on their teams, they have, they're fully engaged from discovery. But that doesn't always happen like that. So there's a little bit of a it's a signal. I feel like as designers we always have to meet our teams where they're at. It can
mhm,
be
mhm.
really hard to get people to come to us, and it takes a lot of institution building for them to be required to come to us. But for me it's really a signal of like how we see ourselves and how we see our value, and reminding people that that's not just delivering, not just delivering final glossy designs.
Yeah.
Wow.
And not everything we do is fighting fires, but it's the analogy that comes to mind is like the designers can't always be fighting fires. At least some of them need to be like moving the brush away from the house or like thinking of like, how can we protect this house from fire?
Mm,
As opposed to just always being there to like quench the flames.
mm. That's so
Absolutely.
interesting.
And my manager said my job is to solve the problems that people aren't calling out yet.
Mm.
And I was looking at other sort of descriptions because I've done a deep dive of like, what does the industry think of a strategist versus a designer? And one of the things I was reading yesterday was like, my job is to find the problems
Mm,
rather than, solve the problems. And that's
Hmm.
a reframing for sure, because I love solving a
gosh.
problem.
I
I
like
mean,
solving problems.
this sounds so challenging. Like I hear what you're saying and conceptually I understand it, but I will admit like this sounds really hard. And I'm very curious about like how you influence people to listen to you because you're kind of, it feels like to me you're doing the work of the product team almost. Like you're stepping into a product role because in my past experience, it was usually product people who were doing this kind of work where you're like looking ahead, writing docs, you know, trying to say like, okay, this is where we should look, this is where we should be going. And then everyone follows suit. So the fact that you're doing it from the UX side, are you tightly coupled like with product doing this, or are you truly like out there on your own?
I am tightly coupled, and I'll have to say I'm still figuring this out. So,
Yeah.
I think one of the big challenges that I have is that I'm used to functioning in a way where they say where it's like you're dedicated to a product or a service or a big feature, and here's your PM partners, here's your engineering manager partners, and like go make this thing come alive.
Yeah.
Um, and the difference here is that it's a different paradigm, and it's hard. And this is one of my big challenges right now, which is part of what we talked about at this offsite. Is like the challenge is this is a new way of working for all of us, and
Mm-hmm.
which rooms do I need to be in to have the information I need? I'm kind of in this like chicken and egg scenario where,
Mm-hmm.
in order to earn trust with the people who I need to be providing value to, I need to be delivering something. But if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
in the room to understand like the information that they're crunching on, how do I bring something of value to the table to start
Mm-hmm.
getting that going? And it's that's been a struggle for me for sure. And I have not cracked that nut yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's different for sure. Yeah.
Gosh, Meg, I don't know about you. I mean, is change like how painful is this change for you? Because I feel like when I have a big career shift, like a change of teams, sometimes even just a change of a manager will do it. Or like a significant change in the way I'm working, I have discovered about myself that it's quite painful for me. And I am like, I have to really tell myself, like, this is good for me. It's good for me to make changes. It's good for me to adapt to a new way. But it's not easy. It doesn't come naturally to me. As adaptable and flexible as I think I am, I have to admit to myself that like I do struggle, when I like things they don't feel familiar or I'm being asked to do something that I'm used to doing all the time. And I'm like, no, I just want to do my old method that I know and love. And don't you want that from me? And if the answer is no and they want me to do something else, I'm like, ooh. And like you, I have been also like listening to, um, you know, LinkedIn Learning, like reading articles, like stuff that I hadn't done in a while, like, or felt like I had to, but I'm trying to go back to some of the basics and like listen again and read again and be like, okay, because I recently, like within the last year, switched teams and it has been so challenging for me. So I'm curious, like, do you feel like this is painful or is it like, this is awesome and I'm loving this? Or is it good pain? I don't know. What do you think?
It's all of those. So I mean, for me, I have to give credit to my leadership, who's kind of forced me out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like, I made a career shift from, QA engineer to UX designer maybe about a decade ago, maybe a little bit more, but and then I've been kind of just learning on the job since then and kind of, naturally growing. And I sort of saw career trajectory as just like, do what you do.
Mhm.
You're going to kind of grow in spite of yourself, and you're not going to really put intentions towards it. You're just going to like, solve harder challenges, solve more complex challenges, and grow in that way. And so this is really something that has pushed me off a cliff in a lot of ways.
Oh, wow.
And but I have, and also credit to my leadership. So they've given me this opportunity to really like level up in a way that I wasn't looking for per se.
Mhm.
But it also, they've given me incredible safety to do that. Like,
That's cool.
I can come to them with my challenges, and like, if they can help me clear them or help me just support me and be like, you're doing all the right things. You're not just, I don't want to
Mm.
fail.
Mhm.
And I don't like failing, but I also am not going to give up on a challenge until I kind of, you know, give it my all.
Mm.
Um, and the safety of like, there's plenty of things to work on. We can always move you to another, that safety of
Mhm.
like, if this doesn't work, and also maybe I'm not a strategist, maybe I'm more of a
Mm.
designer. Like, I'm not sure yet in my
Mhm.
role. Um, but I have the safety to try it out and to give it my best shot, and hopefully, figure something out. We'll see what we
Yeah,
figure out.
that's
I
cool.
want to ask a question about strategy, external versus internal, and get your guys' thoughts. So sometimes companies will hire external strategists who will come in, do a project, and that's their job. Like that is what their company is for, is to come in, do consultant work, and provide strategy, versus having strategists in-house. And I guess I'm curious, what do you folks think are pros and cons? And Courtney, what
Mm.
what do you think you have being an internal strategist, that is an asset?
Yeah, it's interesting, and something about me, because we all kind of have different experiences as designers. Is I've always been in house, so I've never really operated
Mhm.
on a consultancy level.
Mhm.
But I do think that parts of this role are going to feel more consultancy than what I've done before.
Mhm.
And I've had a little bit of experience here. So the other thing is that the branch of AWS that I'm in is we're still fairly like white glove, like it's still kind of an emerging space, and we have to build a lot with our partners and with our customers, and so we end up in more of that like consultative model. But the reason that I think in-house is important, for where we're at, is because there's so much domain knowledge that just
Mm.
takes a lot of immersion to understand. Like, it just
Mm.
takes a long time. And I think that that's something that, at AWS, any designer is going to have to be comfortable with, just not knowing everything.
Mhm.
Because our customers are technical. Like, they spend their careers learning how to do the technical thing that they're doing. We're never going to be we're never going to be completely in their shoes in that way.
Mhm.
But there is a lot that you need to learn about how different types of industries work in order to be able to advocate for the customer. And so I
Mhm.
don't know that a short-term strategy could come in and really uncover that. But the principal strategist that I work with, who's really, a mentor and a coach, and really helping shape the org and help kind of figure out, he's one that was like, I think this role makes sense, and doing the strategy of calling us strategists.
Mhm.
um, uh, and he's got an incredible background as a consultant. So I'm learning a lot of those
Ah.
skills. So I would say we're kind of using the skills of consultants,
Mhm.
but being in house, I think just having that deep, domain knowledge is kind of important.
Yeah, I am biased, but I love when a company is going to take for granted, but in a good way. No, wait, not take for granted.
Take
Appreciate, be
advantage.
grateful, take advantage. Thank you for that domain knowledge and kind of the expertise that you get from being in house. I know that there are benefits to having kind of fresh perspectives and different eyes on something, and that's good. That is good too. But sometimes I think that's kind of at the cost, or it gives the impression that the acquired knowledge and the expertise from in-house is not as perhaps valuable, and that really bothers me. That can rub me the wrong way for sure. And it has definitely happened in past projects, like
Oh,
where,
I'm very curious about because I'm like,
yeah.
where is this question coming from? It sounds
Yeah,
like
no,
maybe there
and
was
like
a consultant in your life that rubbed you the wrong
long,
way a little bit.
well, yeah, a number of years ago, I just remember like this whole project happening, coming in, and there wasn't many insights or findings that were much different than what the folks on the ground were also putting together and saying.
Right.
And I guess in a way, like that's good, right? You have if two groups find similar things
Yeah.
strengthen your argument, but like why wasn't leadership listening in the first place?
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
anyway.
Courtney,
And
like, help us out here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
oh, I was going to say, I think that a consultancy strategist would make a lot of sense if it's a new team kind of getting off the ground, and someone who could come in and say, like help leadership understand their users better and understand how they might need to staff up and what sort of,
Mhm.
experience activities and what type of skill sets they might need to be able to achieve that. It's just in our situation, like I'm in an org that's like relatively mature. We've got a lot of management and leadership, and they don't need that sort of thing. They need someone to just
Mhm.
kind of dive into these new spaces and help figure out, help make sure we're not just making a list of feature requests.
Mhm.
um, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Courtney, I want some help from you. Basically, I want some free advice. So, I, along with many of my buddies, have kind of received this feedback that we need to be more strategic and get out of the weeds. And, your comment earlier about like get out of Figma,
Get
I
out
was
of
just
Figma.
like,
Oh my gosh, that hit me.
ouch. Yeah, that hit me too. I was like, ooh, that one hurts.
gonna be my soapbox soon. I'm gonna start giving presentations on it. Get out of
Get
Figma.
out of Figma. I just, yeah, like how as someone who's also spent my entire career in-house, being told to start thinking and acting like a consultant to my team and be more strategic, like I'm truly mystified. I don't know what it looks like. I haven't seen these people, I haven't worked with these people. And I'm like, can someone help me? What do I need to do? Because I'm so terrified that if I stop making mocks, I'm gonna just be totally irrelevant. Like, how does somebody who's a designer, like dyed in the wool, suddenly start being strategic instead?
Ooh, great question. And I hope maybe ask me in another year too. I'm curious
Oh,
what I'll
Courtney,
say
come
then.
on.
No, I have thoughts on that. I get that feedback too. So it is interesting that they called me a strategist. I'm like, but think big is never my biggest one. Or I think about think big, in a different way. I think about it in terms of like scaling complexity rather than I'm not a futurist at all. Like I'm
Right.
great
Mhm.
working with futurists. I'm a pragmatist.
Yeah.
I like, I can see what the next steps are, and I can see what kind of like the next 5 steps might lead us to some sort of outcome that we all know is desirable. And I think I've always kind of thought in that way where it's like, we need to understand kind of what we're trying to achieve and what sort of the ultimate outcome is going to be. And then I've always been a part of product strategy enough to be able to say, okay, well, we can deliver this in this way and this in this way. So I think there's a lot of ways to look at it. Again, I'm going to have to give credit to my leadership because certain design teams and certain stakeholders, what they expect of us is screens. And I certainly
Mm-hmm.
get feedback all the time, just like, where are the screens? Why are they not faster? Oh, and by the way, when I say get out of Figma, what I'm actually saying is get into Fig Jam, like thinking foundation a little bit
Ah,
more.
that's funny.
I'm in the tool. I'm just using the different, I'm way more in, architectures and lots of
Mm.
post-its and shapes moving around and
Mm-hmm.
ideas and objects moving around. Um, but as far as like, I think I think everyone's probably doing it. I think it's about just thinking of the value of design beyond the mock deliverable.
Yeah.
And mocks are one of the amazing tools we have to kind of understand requirements and understand technical restraints and understand like flows and what customers are gonna, to help validate that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the best like deliverables that I've had are more like customer deep dives. Here's what we know about them. Here's there's other types
Yeah.
of artifacts that designers deliver. But I do really anchor myself to like right now I feel a little unmoored because I haven't really delivered something in a while. And I'm like, what is the deliverable? And I do feel like as designers, there's like we still need some sort of ability to make an impact. And I think the way that we know how to do that the best is delivering. You need to deliver something at the end of the day. But I think that just expanding what that means beyond mocks, and usually it's about investigating your customers more, like just getting more curious about your customers and your users, and less maybe a little bit more time there rather than so much time on the making the artifacts really beautiful and tidy.
I got one more question for you. So you mentioned your offsite, you mentioned working in FigJam. Can you do this job remote?
I like I so I'm someone who likes to work from home because I like to sleep in and stuff, but I'm energized when I work with people. So it's something that I think that there's a lot of, I mean, everyone has different working styles. I think I get the most value. I get the most, I get a lot of energy and a lot of value out of being with people at an offsite, which is how this offsite happened. Cause I was just like, the other strategist was just she's remote and not in an office that's nearby us. And I have the benefit of being in Seattle. We have quite a few people here. And I was like, let's get together, let's get in a room and talk together. Let's pull in a couple other people and so that you can have that benefit too. And I think that, we all know that we can work remote. I think it's important to still be connecting.
Yeah.
So hybrid, you'd say you could do this job hybrid.
I think so, but probably depends a lot on teams. Honestly, like in Seattle, so many people are moving to just a suburb of Seattle, like a lot of our teams. And so even when everyone's local, we're still hybrid, but we have the ability to like, if we're going to workshop together, we can get in a room pretty easily, or I can go to Portland pretty easily and get in a room with some of my colleagues. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome, Courtney. Well, I think you guys, we should wrap it up. We loved having you, Courtney. Thank you so much for joining us. It was awesome to talk to you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah. Listeners, if you need advice or sympathy for your UX career, we are listening. Write to us at survivingux@gmail.com. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Surviving UX is hosted and edited by Jessamine Edwards and Meg Kramer. Our theme music is, among other things, the on-hold music for Cisco phones, Opus Number 1 by Tim Carlton and Derek Deal. And we'll leave you with one more note from Courtney about handling change. If you're not flexible, you'll break.